In the summer of 1943, as the sun began to rise across the vast expanses of the Russian steppe, the Elefant, a colossal German tank destroyer of around 65 tons, thundered onto the stage of the Battle of Kursk. Despite its extreme weight and plodding maximum speed of 30 kilometers per hour, the heavily armored behemoth rolled with the first wave. Moving slowly through the landscape, these mammoths of steel took positions on a hill that provided excellent visibility and unveiled their lethal arsenal. Krupp's latest development, the 8.8cm Pak-43, Germany's most potent anti-tank gun ever developed. Moments later, an entire unit of Elephants opened fire in unison, their guns echoing across the battlefield. The Pak's rounds quickly found their targets, an array of Soviet T-34s, and destroyed them with one swift hit. Other Elephants charged with the infantry, assaulting the Soviet perimeter. The sloped armor turned the Elefant into an invulnerable juggernaut against small arms fire and shrapnel. The symphony of destruction dispatched T-34s and KV-1s one after another, increasing the Elefant's impressive kill ratio to over 10 per tank with every new wave the Soviets launched. It was poised to change everything for Germany. No enemy tank should have been safe from the Elefant's beastly gun, yet it was about to spiral out of control. The Third Reich envisioned a new type of tank destroyer following the invasion of the Soviet Union in 1941. Encounters with Red Army armored vehicles made the Wehrmacht realize the T-34 and IS-2 heavy tanks were resilient machines requiring large-caliber weapons to knock them out. While developing the Tiger I, Porsche lost the competition against Herschel. Still, the company's prototype chassis lived on in another war machine, a new heavy Panzerjäger, or tank destroyer. This vehicle was to be armed with Krupp's latest development, a lethal 88mm anti-tank gun set to become the Reich's most compelling piece of World War II. This paved the way for the Ferdinand Porsche tank destroyer. Later called the Elefant, this Leviathan was designed to strike awe into the hearts of the Red Army. Its dimensions carved an imposing silhouette, over 8 meters long, 3 meters wide, and standing almost 3 meters tall. A 700-horsepower Maybach engine propelled its colossal 65 to 69 tons to a speed of around 30 kilometers per hour with a range of 150 kilometers. The Elefant, with its impressive weight, carried the 8.8cm Pak-43 gun that had more than enough potency to pierce through any tank in the Soviet arsenal with extreme violence. Encased in a sloped, heavily armored hull, the Elefant was manned by a crew of 6. A sloped front glacis provided cover against small arms fire and shrapnel from artillery shells. The vehicle's design emphasized firepower and armor over speed. Yet, the colossal machine grappled with its weight and unwieldiness on the battlefield. The Ferdinand's baptism of fire came during the top-secret Operation Citadel. Also known as the Battle of Kursk, the operation was a massive German offensive on the Eastern Front, scheduled for the summer of 1943. It was envisioned to eliminate the Kursk salient, a bulging area in the Soviet lines near the town of Kursk in western Russia. The German High Command aimed to encircle and destroy the Soviet forces in the area to regain the strategic initiative on the Eastern Front and strengthen the front line from a possible enemy breakthrough. The German commanders also believed pushing back the Soviets would open the gap for a reinvigorated offense that could change the tide of the war against the Soviet Union and terminate Stalin. For the Soviets, Kursk presented an opportunity to draw the Germans into a carefully prepared trap. Thus, the Red Army had gathered substantial forces, constructed extensive defensive fortifications, and positioned itself to absorb the approaching German armies. Their strategy was to exhaust and weaken the German forces during the defensive phase, then launch a counteroffensive to regain lost ground. General Heinz Guderian, tasked with the offensive, amassed all the available German armor and assault guns to mount the offensive, the hybrid Ferdinand tank destroyer among them. The northern pincer was coordinated by Field Marshal Gunther von Kluge and comprised the 9th Army under General Walter's model. Over 30 of the imposing Tigers were part of the force. The second pincer comprised the 4th Panzer Army, which was part of Army Group South under the command of Field Marshal Erich von Manstein. The elite Panzer Army contained the lethal SS Panzer Corps, driving over 120 Tiger Is and 300 untested and brand new Panther medium tanks. Defenders and attackers prepared their men for the ultimate clash. On June 9, 1943, Heavy Tank Destroyer Regiment 656 embarked on its journey towards Orel. Operating under the command of Field Marshal Walter Model's 9th Army and positioned within the 41st Panzer Corps, the regiment reached its designated location on July 1st. The 89 Ferdinands were positioned on the extreme left flank and would roll during the initial thrust, with the assistance of a remote-controlled tank company to clear minefields. The small Borgward B-4 vehicles were equipped with detachable explosive charges to destroy mines in a wide area before the heavier Elephants could move on. Both heavy Jagdpanzer battalions were tasked with providing support for the 86th Infantry Division during the first wave. Upon breaching enemy positions, Regiment 654 would shift its assistance to the 292nd Infantry Division of the 41st Panzer Corps. The tank destroyers assumed positions for the imminent attack, their crews ready to test their powerful guns. Nevertheless, the bad omen of 6 Ferdinands requiring repairs cast a shadow over the effectiveness of the new tanks. The very same occurred with the new Panthers. But the German fighting spirit did not falter, and the ambitious operation was finally launched on July 5, 1943. The first objective of the regiment was to capture Hill 257-7, which was heavily defended by Soviet troops. The Elephants led the offensive, entering the hell of battle alongside the infantry and the mine destroyers. The top-notch firepower of the Elephant and its tough front armor allowed the first attacking wave to pierce through the first Soviet line of defense with relative ease. During the initial clash, the powerful main guns of the Ferdinands tore apart over 30 Soviet T-34 tanks with swift one-hits. The bewildered enemy retreated, not knowing how to deal with these new machines of war. The imposing Elephants instilled terror in the enemy. Still, it was not long before the Soviets realized that, like any other armored vehicle, it could be destroyed with well-concealed mines and accurate shots. After breaching the first enemy line, over a dozen Elephants succumbed to mines. Others were soon put out of commission after their tracks became the target of enemy anti-tank fire. The tank destroyers' size did not help at all. They stood tall in the battlefield, making them the targets of artillery fire. To make matters worse, the Red Army infantry soon discovered the vehicles lacked machine guns for close-range encounters and began to charge toward the Elephants. Surrounded by enemies and without infantry support, many tank destroyers and their crews fell prey to the Soviets. Nonetheless, the Elephants carried on and weakened the Red Army's second defensive perimeter. Ammunition began to run low for their guns, making every shot count, something the German crews did everywhere they stumbled upon an enemy tank. By the time Hitler called off Operation Citadel, it is said the Ferdinands were able to destroy more than 500 enemy vehicles. At the end of the colossal tank battles that raged across the Kursk salient, only 50 battered Elephants out of a pool of 89 made it out. Changes had to be made. Most of the tanks lost were primarily due to immobilization, as rescue crews were not able to retrieve them from the combat line to repair them. The lack of a dedicated recovery vehicle to tow the 69-ton beast cost the German army dearly. After surviving intense rearguard actions at the Eastern Front, the battle-tested Ferdinands were summoned to the fatherland for an extensive modification process. The surviving tank destroyers returned to Nibelungenwerke in January 1944. A dramatic metamorphosis unfolded for 48 of the 50 surviving behemoths. A menacing ball-mounted MG-34 machine gun was fitted on the hull front to fend off enemy infantry. The commander's cupola was modified to improve vision, and the armored engine grates were enhanced to provide better protection. Over 10 of these vehicles were dispatched to the Italian front in February 1944 to quickly halt the Allied advance at Anzio Nettuno. The rest of the Elephants were combat-ready in April 1944 and sent to Ukraine to continue the restless fight against the communist horde. The Elefant would continue making an impact against enemy armor on both fronts until the war came to an end in mid-1945. Despite its incredible firepower, the behemoth was greatly limited by its weight and mechanical failures. Nevertheless, when appropriately employed, the Elefant tank destroyer excelled in combat, achieving an average kill ratio of 10 kills for every vehicle lost in combat, significantly affecting the outcome of every battle it participated in. For a brief moment, the Ferdinand was the most potent mobile land-based weapon ever fielded, until the arrival of the Tiger II, or King Tiger.